All right, my name is Allison Jones, and I'm the Career Development Specialist in the Southeast region.
My name is Amanda Ankney, and I am also a career development specialist, and I serve in the Northwest region. We plan for accessibility from the start. For example, we use the accessibility checker that is built into Microsoft 365 to review the resource guide and PowerPoint. We address color contrast, font style and size, and add alternative text, known as alt text, to visual images. Also, in our delivery, we mention each other by name as the conversation does go back and forth to indicate who is speaking. This can be helpful when attendees are receiving this information through services like American Sign Language interpretation and live captioning. After the webinar, we edit the transcript and fix any captioning errors before uploading the webinar to our on-demand library. We also include a reasonable accommodation statement in our invitation to the webinar, so if attendees need an accommodation, they know who to contact to ask. Taking these steps up front can make this presentation more accessible and inclusive for everyone. Now, let's give an overview of today's webinar.
Excellent. Today's presentation is the first part of our Disability Inclusive Workplace series and focuses on inclusive leadership. We will explore the importance of disability inclusion, what it means to lead inclusively, and how leadership sets the tone for creating a disability inclusive workplace. You will leave with tools and strategies to put in place at your own workplace.
Great. Well, Allison, let's start with a quick poll of our audience. You will see on your screen how confident are you in your ability to lead inclusively. The options are 1, not confident, through 5, very confident. All right. We've got people participating. So let's check out kind of where we're at. All right. So far, it looks like we really do have a pretty good mix on those confident levels, with everybody kind of right in the middle for the majority. So let's go ahead and dive in. In today's webinar, we will offer strategies to gain leadership buy-in, support, and active engagement. We'll discuss action steps for building a team that is inclusive of values and supports employees with disabilities, and we'll explore some supervisory methods and techniques to help support employees with all types of disabilities. We're also going to hear from Alaina Bowers, External Affairs Manager for Ohio's Stable Account at the Ohio Treasurer of State. She's going to share information about a financial product which can help to promote disability inclusion in the workplace. Throughout today's session, we will have some interactive polls and questions, and we invite you to participate. We've also built in 2 question and answer breaks during the webinar, so please use the Q&A button at the top of your screen to ask questions. Allison, let's get started.
Excellent. So I think it's helpful to begin with why. Why does disability inclusion even matter in the workplace? According to the Centers for Disease Control, about 1 in 4 adults in the U.S. will experience a disability. That translates to more than 22 million working-age professionals. Now, disabilities can be visible or invisible, permanent or temporary. So when organizations foster disability inclusion, they create a workplace where everyone has the opportunity to contribute and succeed. Inclusion isn't just about meeting legal standards like the ADA. It's about valuing people, removing barriers, and unlocking potential. So when we build workplaces that are inclusive of people with disabilities, we're not just checking a compliance box. We are creating environments where everyone can contribute and thrive. So let's start with a brief discussion about disability inclusion. We will open up the chat feature, and we'd like everyone just to add your thoughts. So think about, what does inclusion mean to you? Go ahead and drop any ideas you have in the chat. Okay, I'm starting to see some responses come in. That's wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for responding, and keep those coming in. Some things that we're seeing right now is just being a part of. One size doesn't fit everyone. Having everyone at the table, being included, being treated like everyone else, valued, equity, making everyone feel like they're a part of the team, equal experiences, opportunities for everyone. All are what these are wonderful, wonderful responses. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into this even more.
Yes,
Amanda?
okay. So again, we are seeing still some great responses coming in. So thanks for the participation. A disability inclusion is not just the right thing to do, but it's a smart business strategy. Inclusive workplaces benefit from access to a broad talent pool, a diverse perspectives that fuel innovation and problem solving and experience, high employee engagement and morale. And according to Accenture, companies recognized as leaders in disability employment outperformed peers with 60% higher revenue, 2.6 times greater net incomes, and twice the economic profit. In addition to financial performance, research also shows that employees with disabilities tend to stay in their roles longer, which does help reduce turnover-related expenses such as recruitment, onboarding, and training. When employees feel included, they're more likely to be loyal, motivated, and collaborative, all of which contribute to stronger team performance and long-term successes. Allison, what about disability inclusion from a brand perspective?
Absolutely, Amanda. So disability inclusion also enhances your brand reputation and it expands your customer base. Studies showed that consumers are more likely to support companies that actively employ individuals with disabilities. And this is especially true when customers have a personal connection to a specific disability. So, designing products and services with accessibility in mind helps organizations reach more customers. Now, according to the Employer Assistance and Resource Network on Disability, or EARN, Americans with disabilities represent the third largest market segment in the US, with a combined disposable income of $490 billion. So inclusion sends a clear message. This is a company that values people, innovation, and accountability. Now, Amanda, can you tell us how leaders can start to put these ideas into action?
Of course. So we've talked about some of the benefits of building a workplace that is inclusive of individuals with disabilities. But then how do we begin creating that kind of culture within the workplace? So it really starts at the top with leadership. Inclusion must be a shared commitment across all levels of the organization, from the executives to frontline supervisors to staff. Leaders set the tone by being visible, vocal, and consistent in their support for disability inclusion as a strategic initiative. So, some ways that leaders can lead the way are by clearly communicating the business value of having a disability inclusive workplace, such as access to the broader pool of talent, increased innovation driven by varied experiences, higher employee engagement, and improved productivity across teams. Leaders can emphasize how disability inclusion supports organizational goals and long-term success. And it is not a one-time initiative, but rather it is a core value that drives long-term success. So when leaders promote inclusion, it empowers everyone else to do the same. So let's bring our audience back in and have a quiz question for you. Which of the following is most effective? Is a most effective way for a leader to communicate the business value of a disability inclusive workplace? So you got some options to select from. A is share on how inclusion improves productivity, engagement, and innovation. B, emphasize that inclusion is only about legal compliance. C, avoid discussing disability to prevent discomfort. Or D, delegate all inclusion messaging to HR. All right. So let's, again, take a look at what everybody is thinking. So it really looks like the majority of you have selected A. So let's talk about why A is most effective. When leaders continue inclusion to business, when leaders connect inclusion to business outcomes, like innovation, customer reach, and employee engagement, it helps others see inclusion as a strategic priority, and it's not a compliance issue. Allison, what are some benefits of disability inclusion?
Sure, Amanda. So disability inclusion doesn't just benefit people with disabilities, it benefits everyone. This concept is often referred to as universal design, the idea that when we design environments, tools, and systems to be accessible to people with a wide range of abilities, we improve the experience for all users. So first, think about curb cuts. These were originally designed to improve mobility for wheelchair users, but they have become essential for parents pushing strollers, travelers rolling luggage, cyclists, delivery workers. So what started as an accessibility feature is now a convenience for nearly everyone. Another example is captions. While they support deaf and hard of hearing individuals, they also help people in noisy environments like gyms or airports, or those watching videos in very quiet spaces like libraries or offices. Captions also support language learners, and they improve comprehension for many viewers. Another example is accessible websites and documents. Those that use clear structure, readable fonts, and alt text for images not only help screen reader users, but also improve usability for everyone, including people using mobile devices or navigating with limited bandwidth. So when we design with accessibility in mind from the start, we reduce the need for retroactive fixes and create more seamless, inclusive experiences for employees, customers, and clients alike. So ultimately, inclusion is good for people and it's good for business. It fosters innovation, enhances employee satisfaction, and strengthens brand loyalty. So when everyone can participate fully, everyone benefits. Amanda, can you tell us what's really at the heart of inclusion that leaders need to keep in mind?
Absolutely. When we talk about what it really means to lead with inclusion, it starts with respect. Respect is the foundation of inclusive leadership. It's not just about being polite, it's about recognizing the inherent dignity, value, and potential of every individual. Respect is reflected in how we communicate, how we listen, and how we create space for everyone to contribute. Inclusive leaders are intentional about inviting diverse perspectives and making sure all voices are heard. One of the most powerful ways leaders can demonstrate respect is by using person-first language. This means putting the person before the disability. For example, saying a person with a disability rather than a disabled person. It also means honoring individual preferences. Some people may identify with identity first language, and that's okay. The key is to ask, not assume. Inclusive leaders also avoid making assumptions about what someone can or cannot do based on a visible disability. Instead, they focus on individual strengths, goals, and support needs. Respect shows up in the environment leaders create. When employees feel comfortable to disclose a disability or ask for support or share their feedback without fear of judgment, that's a sign of an inclusive culture. But respect is also being proactive. It means thinking about accessibility before someone has to ask for it. For example, using accessible documents, ensuring meeting materials are screen reader friendly, or checking in with your team about what support they may need. When leaders consistently model inclusive behaviors, it sets the tone for the entire organization, and it signals that inclusion isn't just a term, it's a practice.
Thanks, Amanda. Now let's talk a little bit about frontline managers, because while executive support really sets the vision, it's often frontline managers and supervisors who bring disability inclusion to life in the day-to-day operations. Their role is critical because they're the ones building relationships, setting expectations, and responding to employee needs in real time. That's why it's so important to equip them with the tools, training, and confidence to lead inclusively. So here are a couple of ideas about how to empower them. First and foremost, provide training on disability inclusive leadership practices, not just on policy, but how to recognize and respond to accommodation requests. Another idea is to encourage respectful communication and inclusive language, practicing active listening, creating a space where all voices are heard. Another idea is to equip supervisors to lead performance conversations that are both supportive and clear, and reinforce the importance of modeling inclusive behaviors because employees take their cues from their direct leaders. So when supervisors feel confident and informed, they create environments where employees with disabilities feel at ease, supported, and valued. Amanda, can you share a few examples of how leaders can express these ideas?
Allison, of course. So once leadership is on board, the next step is going to be to keep the commitment visible and active. The most important way leaders can demonstrate engagement is through their participation, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be intentional and consistent. So a couple simple ways that leaders can stay engaged is by sponsoring or attending disability-related events or trainings monthly. Showing up sends a strong message. Leaders can identify one or two priority areas to focus on, like improving digital accessibility or increasing awareness about accommodations. Leaders also should encourage teams to talk about disability inclusion in meetings, in newsletters, or onboarding sessions to keep the topic front and center. And then we can also look to have leadership embed disability inclusion into your company's culture, which reinforces how you do business. And again, it isn't just a one-time initiative. So to keep things moving forward, it's helpful to track progress and not just effort. This could mean collecting data on participation in trainings, tracking accommodation requests, or surveying employees about their sense of belonging. Recognize and celebrate leaders who are visible champions to demonstrate how inclusion efforts are making a difference. And by combining a few simple engagement ideas, employers can build a culture where disability inclusion is both intentional and sustainable. So these small, consistent actions help embed disability inclusion in your organization's culture, not as a one-time initiative, but as a core value.
Excellent, thank you. Now let's pause here for our first Q&A. We've already explored why disability inclusive workplaces matter. We've highlighted the importance of leadership support, and we've given a few simple ways of turning the commitment of leaders into meaningful everyday action. So again, if you'd like to ask a question, use that Q&A button at the top of your screen. So think about, what questions do you have about engaging leadership or making the case for inclusion in your organization? Now, to get us started, we'll read and answer just a few pre-submitted questions that we've received. The first one is, how can one champion accessibility and disability accommodations with both professionalism and conviction when facing resistance and little backing from colleagues or leadership? So a few ideas we have for this are to use success stories to really bring that human element to the conversation. You can also share examples of easy to implement accommodations that have made that big impact. Also find allies within your organization, maybe ones that have a personal connection to disability to help you really be that champion. And finally, you can always reinforce the importance of being compliant with the ADA and other laws. Another question we've received is, what advice do you have for employers in rural counties with very limited resources and significant cultural barriers? So for this, really look at a partnership with OOD. This is a great first step for all employers, but definitely for employers in rural counties too. OOD can provide no-cost training, such as disability etiquette and awareness sessions, so we can help you build that understanding, encourage inclusive language, and promote a respectful workplace behavior. Employers can also work with OOD to celebrate progress at any stage, wherever you're starting from hiring an employee with a disability to improving workplace accessibility, And we can help you recognize these milestones to help build that momentum and reinforce the message that disability inclusion and accessibility benefit everyone. As you're seeing these wins, make sure you are celebrating the wins, even small wins, by using local success stories of employees with disabilities. This will reinforce the benefits of disability inclusion and again help build that momentum. So I want to express my appreciation. Thank you for submitting those questions ahead of time. And I want to turn to the Q&A. Let's see. Okay. Let's go ahead and get back to it, and we'll have another Q&A session later too.
Sounds great. So Allison, again, we just want to encourage the audience to continue thinking of questions and utilizing that question and answer feature to ask questions that we can address in that second break we'll have. So before the break, we explored how leadership can demonstrate commitment. Now, let's focus on embedding that commitment in your workplace culture by building inclusive teams. And again, it starts with culture. Employees need to feel that they are entering a workplace where they are comfortable to be themselves, and that includes feeling supported if they choose to disclose a disability. Often, the biggest barrier to employment for people with disabilities isn't the disability itself, it's attitudes and misperceptions held by others. This helps explain why employees may feel hesitant to disclose their disability. In fact, studies show that only about 3% of employees with disabilities disclose their disability to their employer. When your organization is intentional about creating a workplace that is inclusive of individuals with disabilities and actively demonstrates it through everyday practices, employees are more likely to disclose their disability and ask for what they need to be successful. So, Allison, can you share how an organization can work together?
Of course, Amanda. So fostering disability inclusive teams requires cross-departmental collaboration. It's not just the responsibility of one team. Everyone from HR to frontline supervisors to executive leadership can and should demonstrate a shared commitment to inclusion. When inclusion is embedded across teams, it becomes just part of how your organization operates. So here are some practical cross-functional steps to build a team that is inclusive of, values, and supports employees with disabilities. One idea is to review and revise job descriptions using inclusive language. For example, use words like move, position, or communicate instead of lift, carry, or see, because move, position, and communicate implies that the action can be completed in multiple ways by people with many different abilities. Another idea is to include a reasonable accommodation statement in all job postings and ensure that your hiring process is accessible to signal that your organization is open to supporting applicants with disabilities. You can also create an onboarding experience that really includes accessibility information and accommodation contacts. You can also ensure that your digital platforms and physical spaces are accessible and proactively assessed. Including leaders from all departments sends the clear message that your organization values diverse skills and abilities, understands the importance of reasonable accommodations, and is actively working to build a disability inclusive workplace.
Okay, thanks, Allison. Those are some great steps that leaders can consider. So we've talked about how culture plays a key role in whether employees feel comfortable to disclose a disability. So let's take a quick poll of our audience and ask a question. So a poll is going to appear on your screen with the question, what do you think is the biggest barrier to building a disability inclusive team culture? So options to select are 1, lack of awareness or training, 2, fear of saying the wrong thing, 3, unclear policies or processes, 4, limited leadership and engagement, or 5, time or competing priorities. So we'll give you just a second to think about your options. Okay, so it looks like we've got, again, some responses ranging across the options, with the majority of our audience choosing one, lack of awareness or training. So again, thanks for sharing your thoughts. And these responses reflect a common challenge that we hear from organizations. The good news is that each of these barriers can be addressed through intentional leadership, cross-functional collaboration, and inclusive practices like the ones we're about to explore.
All right, thanks, Amanda. So now that we've covered team building strategies, let's shift our focus to the role of supervisors. Supervisors are often the first point of contact for employees, and they play an important role in creating a supportive environment. When supervisors create that supportive environment, they can help foster trust, boost employee engagement, and ensure that all employees, including those with disabilities, feel valued and empowered to succeed. A supportive environment is one where employees feel comfortable to disclose a disability or request a reasonable accommodation, and they feel encouraged to pursue career growth without fear of stigma or judgment. It's also a space where supervisors recognize individual strengths, encourage open communication, and provide consistent, respectful support. Now, creating this kind of environment is not only the right thing to do, but it's also a strategic advantage. Inclusive supervision improves morale, reduces turnover, and strengthens team cohesion. It helps organizations retain top talent and build that culture of belonging. So, Amanda, let's introduce a few key supervisory methods and techniques that help bring this environment to life.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. That sounds great. So let's explore some practical methods and the techniques supervisors can use to create that supportive and inclusive environment. So supervisors can build relationships through trust and communication. So inclusive supervision starts with listening, showing empathy, and creating space for open dialogue. When employees feel heard and respected, they're more likely to share their needs, ask for support, and engage fully in their work. An example of how this would be implemented in the workplace could be set a time to meet one-on-one with each team member, keep it consistent, and prioritize it like any other important meeting. Another way is to support career development. So an option would be to have career chats with your employees. Career chats are informal, ongoing conversations that help supervisors understand an employee's interests, strengths, and career aspirations. Career chats can be a terrific way to identify growth opportunities within the organization. These conversations are especially valuable for employees with disabilities as they provide a space to discuss career goals, potential barriers, and support needs. In the workplace, this could be implemented by keeping the tone conversational and ask open-ended questions, such as what are some skills you'd like to develop? What kind of projects energize you? It's helpful if employees know that this is a conversation about growth and opportunity, and it's not a performance review. Allison, can you share information about the supervisor's role where accommodations are involved?
Of course. So, one of the most important responsibilities a supervisor has in fostering an inclusive environment is knowing how to recognize and respond to a request for a reasonable accommodation. If an employee discloses a disability, don't make assumptions about their abilities. Instead, focus on the interactive process. Have a collaborative conversation to identify effective, individualized solutions. A study from Cornell University found that employees are 60% more likely to disclose a disability to their supervisor than to HR. This means supervisors are often the first to receive a request for an accommodation, and those requests may not always be obvious. According to the Equal Employment and Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, a request for an accommodation doesn't need to include legal terms like ADA or reasonable accommodation. It can be made in plain language in any format, even during casual conversation or performance review. The key is that the employee communicates a need for a work-related change or adjustment because of a disability or medical condition. Supervisors should know who to contact in HR to begin that process and maintain confidentiality throughout. And if it's unclear whether the employee is requesting an accommodation or not, it's okay to ask for clarification in a respectful way, like saying, "Thanks for sharing that. Can you tell me more about what you need to be successful in your role?" Ultimately, the goal is to ensure that no request is overlooked and that every employee feels supported to ask for what they need. Now, supervisors can also play a key role in encouraging employees to engage in leadership development and employee resource groups, if possible. These can be a terrific way to build their network and learn new skills. Supervisors can support this by sharing information about available resources, nominating employees for leadership programs, and recognizing participation as a valuable contribution to the workplace. Another idea is promoting disability awareness and inclusive practices. This is essential to building a workplace culture where all employees feel respected, valued, and supported. Now, here are some ways supervisors and leaders can actively promote disability inclusion. Sharing resources that highlight disability inclusion and accessibility best practices. For example, sharing checklists or guides on creating accessible documents, emails, and presentations, or using Microsoft's Accessibility Checker. Supervisors can also model inclusive language. For example, using person-first language like person with a disability instead of disabled person, and avoiding outdated or stigmatizing terms. Additionally, supervisors can model disability inclusive behaviors like verbally describing visual content during meetings for participants using screen readers, and also stating their own name before speaking during meetings or discussions, which is particularly helpful for participants who are using screen readers, rely on live captioning, or use American Sign Language. These small habits can make a big difference in ensuring everyone can follow the conversation and feel included.
Great, thanks, Allison. So let's take a moment to reflect on the strategies that we just discussed. And I'd like to ask the audience a question. So we're going to open the chat, and if you'd like to drop your comments in this for this question, which of these supervisory techniques do you already use? And which ones could you begin incorporating into your daily leadership practices? So some ideas to consider is, how do you currently build trust and communication with your team? When was the last time you had a career-focused conversation with a team member? How confident do you feel in recognizing and responding to accommodation requests? And then what's one small change that you could make this week to promote disability inclusion in your team? So again, we have the chat turned on, so feel free to share some thoughts or ideas in the chat. Okay, so we're having some responses come in now, so thank you. So we've got building relationships. Yes, starts with talking to people, including OOD and training resources, using more inclusive language, of course. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes, I regularly have career conversations with teammates at all levels, disability employee resource groups, encouraging people to join, understanding that everyone with a disability is the same, receiving accommodation requests and taking action. Yeah, so definitely some great responses, some great ideas, and then easy ways to incorporate those into your leadership.
All right, thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts in the chat. So far we've discussed how leadership and internal teams play an important role in fostering disability inclusion, but you don't have to do this work alone. Collaborating with outside organizations that specialize in disability inclusion and accessibility can also help your organization. It can help by helping you access a broader pool of qualified candidates, help you receive technical assistance on inclusive job descriptions, interview practices, and onboarding. They can help you improve your approach to reasonable accommodations and offer disability awareness training that's tailored to your particular workforce. These partnerships will help ensure that your hiring process is not only compliant, but also welcoming and inclusive, increasing the likelihood that candidates with disabilities will apply to and thrive within your organization. Amanda, can you share a few ways that leaders can partner with our organization?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Allison. So, as you may be aware, one of the most valuable partnerships available to Ohio employers is with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, or OOD. At OOD, we can support your organization through talent sourcing and candidate referrals. OOD's business relations team can help connect you with qualified job seekers with disabilities who are ready to contribute to your success. OOD offers an on-demand webinars and trainings, and we cover topics like disability etiquette, inclusive hiring, and accommodations. OOD is also able to provide onboarding and retention supports, helping you create a welcoming and sustainable environment for new hires. And OOD also has Accessible Ohio. This program will provide guidance on physical and digital accessibility improvements. You can find your region's business relations team by visiting ood.ohio.gov and navigating to the For Employers page. A link is being shared into the chat. And best of all, OOD services are provided at no cost to employers, making it a practical and impactful resource for building a more inclusive workplace.
All right, thanks, Amanda. Now, another meaningful way that employers can demonstrate their commitment to disability inclusion is by supporting their employees' financial well-being. Stable accounts are a financial tool specifically designed for individuals with disabilities. They allow eligible employees to save and invest money without jeopardizing their access to public benefits like Medicaid or SSI. By offering education about stable accounts or even enabling direct deposit, employers can make a meaningful difference in the lives of employees and their families. To help us understand how these accounts work and how employers can get involved, we are thrilled to welcome Alaina Bowers, the External Affairs Manager for Ohio's Stable Account at the Ohio Treasurer of State. Welcome, Alaina. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do?
Hi, yes, absolutely. So earlier before the meeting, I was connecting with my friends at OOD and we were having some issues. So I just want to make sure you can see me and hear me okay in this room. I can't see really anybody or anything on the screen, so I'm sort of talking. Hopefully you can see everything.
All right, we've got some thumbs up, Alaina, so I think you're okay.
Okay, you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Great. So I know we have a short amount of time right now to learn a little bit about Stable Account, but this is such an important program. I'm the External Affairs Manager, and we have a very small team at the Treasurer's Office, but our work is so impactful, not only in Ohio, but across the country. We are a national program, and it's so important to talk about Stable Account because it has such an impact on so many different families, so many different self-advocates. It's such an impact at every chapter of their life, especially as they are transitioning out of high school, college, in their adult years, and of course, when they are working. So this is a really great resource that I'm excited to share very briefly about. And our friends at OOD do such a good job at implementing Stable with their onboarding process. And so we're very thankful to them. But this kind of section right now is to make sure that you understand what Stable is, a little bit about the why, how we are, what we do, and how it can impact your role in employment, especially supporting employees that might have disabilities and are eligible. So we'll go ahead and get started. One important thing to understand about the impact of Stable Account is to understand how this initiative came to be. So if you've ever Googled Stable Account, you might start seeing Able Account. And it's important to understand that this is a national initiative. So across the country, ABLE accounts in general are tax advantage saving options for people with disabilities. So if you have an ABLE account in Ohio or Florida or Texas, they function very similar to what a stable account is. Our program happens to be national, but the goal of ABLE accounts in general are to empower people with disabilities to have a place where their funds are completely protected from the possibility of losing eligibility for benefits. And the two that we see a lot are SSI and Medicaid. If you're on those benefits, there's a lot of restrictions on how much you can have in your personal bank account. And so that is why ABLE accounts were created. It was a way to give the self-advocates and their providers, their families, their guardians, a place where they can put money into this account. It can grow over time, whether the money's coming from your wages, your SSI money each month, mom and dad, any source, and it's protected from losing benefits. So it's truly a very impactful program. Stable Account is really proud to be part of this national initiative, and we are proud to have been the first state to launch back in 2016. So we are administered by the Ohio Treasurer's Office. We travel all across Ohio to make sure that our community partners know about the impact that it has on all ages and all demographics. And a lot of our initiatives are focused on employment, because a lot of folks that have disabilities, they're, whether they're working part-time, full-time, this is a really important resource for them to have, because they have a way to also take on more hours, to be able to take that bonus, take that higher wage, and put it into their stable account. So it's really important for us to, continue to do the work to get the word out, of course. Our strength over the years is due to the connection to so many community partners who make a point to implement stable within their onboarding procedures and general advocacy. We are a national program, so our accounts are, growing every day. Our assets are growing. And the reason that we are so passionate about the program is because we've met so many ambassadors, part of our program, who, if they didn't have a stable account, they really wouldn't be able to take on that job. They wouldn't be able to save for something long-term, especially if they were on benefits. So it's really important that we continue to promote the program. And there's such an opportunity for employers across Ohio to understand the benefits of stable account and understand it's really simple to promote it within your workplace, which we're excited to talk about shortly. So let's talk about sort of the why this program is so impactful to so many self-advocates, families, partners, and providers. Really the benefits of account ownership is all about the person with a disability. It is their account. It's the account that they set up on their own, especially if they are in their adult years and they're learning independence, financial management. This is a resource and a financial tool that has so many abilities to help them with short-term planning, whether they're saving for rent, or their long-term planning where they're saving for a vehicle, or even day-to-day expenses. There's a lot of different features for the program, but that ownership and that self-esteem is something that we really are proud to see. And also it eliminates a spend down. So we're not going to focus today on benefits like Medicaid and supplemental security income, SSI or SSDI. I'm sure OOD could agree that that's like a whole other hour-long benefits webinar we could do. But people that have disabilities rely on those benefits, so they want to keep those benefits. Medicaid helps with their health and their well-being, and SSI helps with their day-to-day expenses each month as well. So it's important for them to remain on those benefits if they need to. If they go over the resource limit of those benefits, they're going to lose their benefits. So having a stable account allows them to contribute a lot more into that account, and they can use it for different types of expenses moving forward. Over the years, our program has witnessed countless powerful stories that highlight its impact. One of the most important ones that we've seen in recent years, and really why we want to focus it today, is all about how to promote stable account in the workplace. This slide, I know there's a lot of text on this slide. But it's really a good way to just showcase that employers have the opportunity to promote. And when we say promote, we really just say to provide resources, right? Whether that's our flyer, whether that's, our information, but including stable account in the onboarding process for employers across the state has a way to reach different employees that may be eligible for a stable account. So how does it work? Empowering employees with disabilities to save money and reach financial independence is our goal. That is the goal and the root of stable accounts. So knowing that they can work and save and keep their benefits, it empowers them to stay in the workforce and to maybe take on more hours or to take on that raise if they're working for that. And the biggest thing for stable account is it removes the barrier. So previously, if you had over $2,000, if you're on SSI and you have more than $2,000, you could lose your benefits. But having a stable account and having that place where those contributions can go into allows you to, remain protected, especially through the able to work contribution limit, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It also encourages workforce participation without jeopardizing public benefits. So a lot of people that have disabilities that are on benefits can't participate in a typical 401k or retirement plan because it counts against their resources or their assets. But stable account can actually serve as a retirement vehicle. We've done a lot of courses on that, and that's something that if you're interested in learning more about, please reach out to us because we love to discuss that. But if you think about it, if somebody has a stable account and they're putting their wages into it each month or each week or each year, that money has the potential to grow for long-term savings, of course. And then, of course, the best thing is that it supports diversity, inclusion, and financial well-being. So it reflects positively on the employers who promote and support our program. Organizations with financial wellness benefits, kind of help the morale. It helps employees, whether they're eligible or not, know that they're promoting this great program. A couple tax advantages that we want to talk about is just that any earnings that go into a stable account are after tax, but they grow tax-free. So just having a stable account on its own, if you're putting in money from SSI or from your own bank account or from mom and dad, any earnings grow tax-free. There are no tax penalties for taking the money out, which is a positive, as long as they're used on qualified disability expenses, which we'll talk about. Also, partnering with stable account, there is zero cost for the employer or the employee. So if you set up direct deposit into your stable account in your own portal, there is no cost. And if for an employer to promote it, there is also no cost, which we love to promote, because I think that sometimes when we talk about stable account, the first hurdle is, well, what is stable account and how can I as an employer promote it if there's all this work involved? It's really not a lot of work. It's just including our information within the employer's procedures and policies. But our team, we want to remain a positive resource to help employers and organizations with education, program updates to help their community. So let's talk a little bit about what a partnership may look like with stable account direct deposit. So as I mentioned some highlights in the previous slide, it's all about efficiency and awareness. Our goal in stable account is to spread the word every single day about the program. We are doing it all over Ohio as much as we can, but we still attend events and we meet families and parents and self-advocates who they've maybe heard of what an ABLE account is, but then they don't know what stable is. So it's all about just that continued awareness. And so if somebody is in their 20s and they start out a job and the job is promoting, hey, this is what stable account direct deposit is. They may know if they're eligible or not. It's obviously up to the employee to possibly disclose that if they want to, talk about the fact that they're on benefits, but it just gives that second piece to promote the benefits as well. It also gives the awareness that this employer is wanting to promote a wonderful program as well. So in the past, our office has done some press releases. We've done some ambassador stories. We'll come back to the employer and take some photos and some interviews, especially if they have staff that are utilizing our program and direct deposit in a really great way. We want to be a resource. As I mentioned, this is a very simple program to promote. It is up to the employee that is eligible or an employee that could potentially have their paycheck go into their child's stable account. as well. That's another option. So we want to remain as a resource. We provide trainings. We can, attend in person, give an overview of the program to certain team members, HR, leadership, and of course the staff that might be benefiting from it as well. We want to also promote it in different initiatives. So if you have newsletters, website resources, links, events, that's another great way that you can bring awareness to this, really powerful tool. So as I close out today, I just want to briefly go through a little bit of the other facts about the program, like eligibility and enrollment. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I know we're close to time, but the biggest question we get is who is eligible. So if you know somebody that's eligible, they must reach these two key factors for eligibility across the country. This is not just focused to stable account, it's for all ABLE programs. And the individual must have developed their disability before they turn 26. So that is the onset age. You don't have to be under 26 to have a stable account. You can be over the age of 26 as long as your condition was onset before they turn 26. Starting January, the eligibility will increase to 46, which is a huge positive win for the program across the country. We've been promoting that for months and years now, and it's finally, very close. So the other piece for eligibility is if you are eligible to receive benefits. So you don't have to currently be receiving Medicaid, SSI, SSDI. It's just that if your condition or disability makes you eligible. If you're on those benefits, it is crucial to have a stable account because, that's a place that you can protect your money. Also, for the contribution limits, we want to just focus on the general contribution. So that is $19,000 from all sources. But if the account holder is employed, they can contribute an additional $15,060. So that is the Able to Work initiative. So if you have an employee that has a stable account, and they're working part-time, they're working hourly, and they're really trying to calculate everything out so they can keep their benefits and not go over that $2,000 limit. This is where this comes in and helps so many people. So they can first contribute $19,000 from any source, which could include wages, plus an additional $15,060, which makes that annual 2025 contribution limit $3,460, which is just amazing. So I know focus on employment, that just empowers individuals to be in the workforce, to have that empowerment like everyone else does. It's so important, but it also helps families with long-term planning as well. I know I'm going back fast by this, but I'm going to just close out with what you can use the funds on, because all of us who are working obviously use their paychecks on, things that help your life. So in order to have something qualify as a, like just went off, to qualify as a qualified disability expense, it must improve the health, independence, and quality of life. So these are just sort of the icons that a lot of expenses we see, but it's very broad for a reason. So if you have someone that is, wondering what stable account is, our flyer, our information details what you can use your funds on. And those pictures obviously indicate that is everything that is going to improve your life. Those day-to-day expenses, Amazon, Uber, rent, medical expenses, legal fees. We've seen people, link it to their Uber account for transportation. So a lot of flexibility as well. But just the idea that you can, protect your money and grow it every single year and use it for long-term planning is just such an incredible tool. And we're really proud of the program and the work that we've done. So I'm going to close out with our last slide of our contact information. I know our friends at OD have our emails. We want to remain a resource to anyone, including on the webinar today. And if you want some individual information, presentations, we're always on the road. So reach out to us and we'll hopefully be in touch soon. So thank you so much. I'm going to close out and hopefully we'll have some good Q&A here.
Excellent. Thank you again, Alaina, for sharing your expertise. Amanda, I think now would probably be a good time to pause for our last Q&A break.
Yeah, so thanks, Allison. So Alaina, we do have two questions for you in the chat. The first is regarding the stable account beneficiary. Is the beneficiary of the stable account required to have a disability?
Yes, so the person on the account is always a person that's eligible, so they must fit those two pieces of eligibility. One feature of the program that I didn't talk about is enrollment, and a lot of our account holders actually have an authorized legal representative that opens the account for them. That's mom, dad, guardian. I actually skipped over that slide. I apologize. So they can open the account and manage the account on behalf of the person with the disability, but the beneficiary is always the person that's eligible. For an employer perspective, you are not setting up the stable account for a possible employee to link the direct deposit. The employee must have an established stable account that they can link direct deposit to.
Sounds good. And then we just had one more that I can quickly summarize. Asking a difference between able and stable, what the primary difference is. And stable is the state of Ohio name for the able account. So stable is just the name that Ohio has provided the able account. Okay. Allison, I think that's the questions that we've got right now. Do we want to move forward?
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you again, Alaina. Thank you, Amanda. As we wrap up today's session, let's take a moment to reflect on the key takeaways. We began by making the business case for disability inclusion, demonstrating how it drives innovation, strengthens customer loyalty, and enhances employee engagement. We talked about the importance of leadership commitment and how to translate that commitment into meaningful, measurable action. We explored practical strategies for building disability inclusive teams, from accessible hiring practices to inclusive job descriptions and effective accommodation policies. We emphasized the critical role of supervisors and mentors in supporting employees with disabilities and fostering their professional growth. We also highlighted the power of employee resource groups, mentorship opportunities, and disability awareness training in cultivating that culture of belonging. And we learned how programs like stable accounts can be integrated into your organization's broader inclusion and wellness strategies to support financial empowerment. Disability inclusion does not happen by accident. It happens only by design.
Great. That's right, Allison. So disability inclusion is a journey. It's about recognizing the value of every individual and creating a workplace where everyone can contribute, can grow, and succeed. And it begins with leadership, but it takes all of us working together to build a workplace where everyone can thrive.